Hello YouTube, this is OJ Cubing and welcome to my 4x4 tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be using a reduction method, which is basically a beginner's method to solve the 4x4, and I'm going to be using my fairly newish Moyu Alsu to be doing this tutorial. And so first of all we're going to get into cube notation. Now if you don't know normal Rubik's Cube notation, I'll leave a link in the description to my notation video which I made a long time back, and it's basically the same notation apart from a couple of minor differences. So on the 3x3 a little r would look like this and moving these two layers, but on the 4x4 a little r means moving the inner layer of the right face, so that will be a little r. And the little r works with the big R in terms of that's clockwise, that's clockwise, that's anti-clockwise, that's anti-clockwise. And so yeah, that's going to be coming in handy at some points. But the other thing we're going to want to do is RW, which means R with the inner layer, I guess. So this is R and this is RW. So just to recap that quickly, and this works with any of the other faces. For example, we have big U prime, little u prime, UW prime. And that's basically it for 4x4 notation, and so let's crack on with the tutorial. We're going to first of all have to scramble this cube. Okay, that looks about scrambled. And so basically with this method, I'm just going to put the camera back a bit because the 4x4 is a bit bigger than I remembered. We are going to be doing it in this sort of step. So first of all, we're going to solve all of these centers. Now you'll notice that the centers aren't built in because it's an even layer puzzle, so we have to make the centers first. We're then going to do what's known as edge pairing, which is pairing edges up like this so that they are next to each other and in the right position. So you see that isn't paired up, but that is paired up. And then what we're basically going to have is a 3x3, wherein we've got the centers, edges, and corners, and we just have to solve it like a normal 3x3. But there is some parity algorithms which I will go through. So anyway, let's start off with the centers. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a white center. Now if you look at the normal 3x3, we normally solve on white, so we're going to try and make this white center here. And the first thing I notice is there's a 2x1 white block sort of thing. And so that's going to come in useful for a white center. We're also going to want to make a 2x1 white block again, so that we can make our 2x2 white block. So here I can see we've got one white center there and one white there. And we can quite easily see that if we rotate this around like that, then we're going to have them lining up like this, so that when we move this layer up, we're going to make our 2x1 block. And then you can see we've got our 2x1 block there, a 2x1 block there. So if we move this round like that, we can push that up like that, and then we have a 2x2 white center, and that is the white center done. We're now going to work on trying to make the yellow center, which is the one opposite it. As you can see, yellow is opposite white. So as you can see, we've actually neatly got a 2x1 block up there, but let's pretend that we didn't have that. So what we're going to do is, you can see we've got our 2x1 yellow block there, we've got our white face there, but as you can see, if we move it up like that, then we've got our 2x1 block in place, but we've ruined our white face. So what we actually have to do is we have to move it up into the up face, then we do a U2 to push it out of the way of this layer, and then we're going to move this layer back down, which means that our white face is still there, and we've got our 2x1 block still up there. And now we have to make another 2x1 yellow block, so we can see we've got one there and one there. Now it's important here that we use the inner layers as least as possible, so what we're going to do is we're going to move this outer layer so that these two line up, and then we can move this layer, and because it's in the equatorial slice, it's not going to mess up either of these two. And now here you see we've got our 2x1 blocks again, but we can't just put it up like that, make our yellow center, rotate it around, pull it down, because then our yellow block is still out of place. So what we're going to have to do is a little method called displacement, which means we're basically going to put this yellow block in the way of this block. We're then going to displace it out of the top face, like that. We're then going to do a U2 to move this out of the way. Then when we put this white back into its place, we're also going to drag this yellow back into the place. And then we have the yellow center and the white center fixed. And so we can start on the middle layer centers. The first center in the equatorial slice is quite easy because we don't have to mess anything up. And so we're going to do the same thing of building up blocks. So I'm going to choose green because we've got a 2x1 green here. So what we're going to want to do is place it either towards the yellow or towards the right so that it's out of the way. So I'm going to place it towards the yellow. We then have our green here and our other green is over here. So what we want to do is we want to push one of these out of the way of this slice here, so that we can see that if this is in the top left corner, this needs to be in the top right corner. So we're going to push it up into there. Then when we bring this down, we're going to have made a 2x1 block there. We can then turn that round so that it lines up with this, and we can slot it in and make our green center. So that's all well and good. We've still got our other two centers in, so we've solved 3 centers. So let's start on the 4th center. Now here we want to, well, I'm going to say now we don't want to solve the blue center because it'll come in easier not to. So we either have to solve the orange or the red center. And to know which one we have to do, we have to look at a normal cube. So here we have a normal 3x3, obviously. As you can see here, we have orange is on the left of green when white is on the top, which means that orange here is going to be to the left of green when white is on the top, which means we have to construct an orange center here, which is handy because we've got a 2x1 orange block there. So you can push that around to this bottom like that. And then we need to try and make another 2x1 block. We got our 2 there, they're nicely lined up. But if we move them together like that, we're going to disrupt this green. So what we need to do is we need to move it like that, push it out of the way of this slice, and then push that back down, which will save that green block, and this orange is still going to be made. Then again, we've got to use the same sort of displacement algorithm in that we push it up, move it out of the way, and push it back down. And that's going to make our orange center. Our green, white, and yellows are still fine. And then we have to work on the last 2 centers. So we might want to make blue here, but that would be wrong, because as we can see from our 3x3, blue over here is opposite of green, which means the blue has to go here and red has to go there. So this is one of the cases where we've got 2 lines and diagonals like here, and all we have to do is move down this face, it can be any way you want, and then move it out of the way and push it back up like that. So I'll quickly do that in terms of move notation. If you're holding it with 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom, sorry, on the front. So we are going to do LW, F prime, LW prime. And what that's going to do is it's going to make our 2x1 blocks, 2x1 blocks. And then remember we need to make red down here so we can make the blue up here by using displacement, push it out of the way, do a U2 to move that out of the way, push that back in, and then we'll have all of our centers solved and we're ready to do edge pairing. But first I'm going to show you another case that you might have to face. So another type you might have is a little L shape here and an L shape here with 2 dots that are of the wrong colours. And so the way we're going to want to do this is we'll choose, let's say, to solve this blue piece here. What we need to do is see where the corner of the L is. It's in the top left of this piece. So we need to put the corner into the top left of that piece. And see, those 2 line up now. So we can push that up, move this round to the side and push that back down. And that will construct our centers. And I think that's basically the only cases you need. If you've got any other cases, just try messing around with this sort of R prime sort of things, and you'll eventually manage to create the centers. But it's fairly intuitive, so I hope that makes sense to you. Anyway, let's crack on with edge pairing. So the first thing I want to stress about edge pairing is that when we're pairing up the edges, it doesn't matter where they go. So here we have an edge that's paired up and it is actually in the right slot, but we don't have to make sure it stays in that slot, and we can do any old moves like this. And you can see it is still paired up over here and that doesn't really matter. So what I'm going to say for this bit is you can move any of the outer layers as you wish, but as long as you keep the algorithms restricted when you start moving the inner layers so that you don't mess up the centers. So anyway, we're going to try do some edge pairing. So I'm going to pick 2 that I can see quite clearly. I see that we have a white-red here, so we need to pair that up with the other white-red piece. We've got a white-red piece here, so I'm going to move around these layers. I'll explain how to do that in a little bit, so that we've now got the red-white piece is directly beneath the slot next to the other red-white piece. So that means that we can bring this up with an RW, and that will pair up these edges. We can then push it around to the side with an F prime, and then push this back up with an L prime. Then, actually we're going to do an L2 there, but ignore that for a little bit. We're then going to move around the F like that, and we're going to pull this back down with an RW prime, which will mean that we've got our paired up edge right there, and we can now move on to more edge pairing. So let's describe how to do this. So basically you've got to say, I'm going to solve this one, and we're going to leave it in the top front bit here, and we're going to find the other orange bit. We're going to drag that into the bottom layer, and we're going to move it round until it's underneath our piece. But here you can see that it is in the right place, essentially, but if we move up there, it's not going to pair up because it's directly beneath the other orange-white bit. So what we're going to do is a little algorithm which involves going D, R, U, F, U prime, and that's going to mean that we've swapped this around sort of thing so that it's directly beneath there, and we can move on with our edge placement algorithm, which we're going to do this time because it's on the left. We're going to do as L prime, sorry, LW prime, I guess, F prime, L prime, F, LW. So it doesn't really matter which way you move it, as long as you're pairing them up and then moving out of the way. And so I'm going to do it again with this one. So we've got our green white there. We can move our other green white into there. As you can see, it's in the wrong place, so we move it out of the way using that algorithm. And now you see it's like this. So I'm going to mention now another important thing about edge pairing, which I sort of breezed over last time, is that we need to make sure that we don't have any already paired up edges in this slot here, because as you can see, when we pair it up and then move it out of the way, we're then going to move this one into the way, which is then going to unpair that one, which we don't want. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that there's nothing paired up there as we do this RW, F prime, L prime, F, RW prime. So that messes up an unpaired non-pair sort of thing. But that's a little bit different if we're trying to use it on the left side, because that's also going to move that because we're using an LW. You could solve this by doing a little L, but it's a lot easier to do LW moves. And so let's find another pair so I can give an example of this. Okay, so here's an example of that. We've got our yellow-blue that we're trying to pair up here, and we notice that there's no pairs in that slot there, but because we're doing our LW prime, we've paired that up, but now we do have a pair in that slot. So actually that's not quite good. We could either get around this by doing a small L so that it doesn't, so that we still got no pair in there, or the other thing we could do is just move that back another slot so that sort of do this sort of thing so that our pair is still not in there, and we can continue with that pair like that. And so basically, I don't see much more I can explain about this. Hopefully that'll make sense to you at some point. But I'm just going to continue with edge pairing for now, and I'm going to come back with a parity case. But this will take a little while, so you just need to sort of continually do some edge pairing, and you'll eventually get to a solvable place. Okay, so now you can see that every edge is now paired up, apart from two last edges, and that's important because no matter which way we do it, we're always going to be breaking a pair, which is going to make another two. And it's basically a parity algorithm. It's quite simple to learn. So instead of having it so that this aligns with the slot underneath that one, we now need to use that little algorithm again so that they are positioned like this, so that these two are opposite and the other two are opposite. And now we need to do the algorithm DW R, F prime, U, R prime, F, DW prime. and that is going to pair up your last two edges. We've now got every single edge solved, and this actually kind of looks like a little 3x3 if you imagine it correctly, and so we are ready to solve it like a 3x3. I encourage you to learn that algorithm because it's a very simple one, and it will be really easy and come in useful in the future. So anyway, we're going to crack on with the 3x3 now. I'm not going to do too much of a tutorial on this because I've got loads of I got two 3x3 tutorials already, but we're going to make the cross and all that sort of stuff. I'm going to be using my advanced method for this, so if you haven't seen that, go check it out. I'm also going to be using a bit of a new method I've learned, just because we need to save a bit of time with this, and you can solve this basically using any method you like. But here you can see we've got a bit of a problem. So what we've got is only one of these edges is correct, and if we look on the 3x3, the only cases we can have is only a dot, a line, or an L shape. So you can see this can't actually happen. And the other case we could have is where three of them are solved, but one of them isn't. And for sake of example, I'd show you that case as well, where we've got three of them correct and one of them incorrect. And we need to swap this one here. And so the algorithm for this is RW2, B2, U2, LW, U2, R prime W, U2, RW, U2, F2, RW, F2, L prime W, B2, RW2. And that's going to flip that edge. Now, I know that's a really long and complicated algorithm, so what I'd really recommend is writing that down, maybe having it on your phone, then you can reference it whenever you need to use it, and the algorithm will be in the description, so it'll be there for you to use. But anyway, we're going to continue on with this now. So we've got our OLL case here, which we can complete. You can do it any way you want. And then you can see we've got a case that we don't really seem to be able to solve. Because we've actually got a PLL parity as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first of all think, well, if I rotate this around, I don't really know. You can see we can't really rotate it around in any way. We can try it in any way we want, but they're just never going to be in a solvable position or anything. You see, it's never going to work. So actually the algorithm we're going to use now is one to swap the front two and the back two. So we got a swap like this, and that algorithm is little r2, u2, little r2, uw2, little r2, little u2, and that's going to solve it like that. And then if we've got a case like this, like I had earlier, where we just sort of couldn't see which way to rotate them, if we just do that algorithm, R2, U2, R2, UW2, R2, U2, then you can see that we've now got it into a place that is solvable, and we can just do a normal edge orientation or permutation algorithm, the one that you maybe use for beginner's method or whatever you use. Anyway, that is the 4x4 now solved. I hope this all made sense to you. I hope you were able to solve your 4x4. I will be coming out with an advanced method at some point soon using the YAL method. But for now, guys, that's it from me, and have a great day.